And institutionalization, in institutionalization you can see how the society is viewed upon. You see it in the procedural measures, you see it in the information measures, in the consultative measures, in institutional measures, and in restructuring measures. Now, this is a very complex slide. This is a very complex slide. And I lose the light here, so I have difficulty of reading. But when you look at societal groups as target groups, then you take measures in order to regulate, extensive regulation, maintenance by sanctions. You know, but if you see society as an interest group, you regulate in order to ensure democratization. That's something different. Laws on work councils, for instance. You enable the existence, the creation of work councils, of public inquiry procedures, of constitutional rights, of freedom of the press. That's indicative for a society that takes of a government that takes its society as an interest group, that has interest, and the interest has to be uttered. When you see societal groups as a client, you aim at simplification of regulation. You aim at deregulation. You aim at language improvement. You aim at the redesign of forms in order to have everybody understand what they need to do. Staff training to enhance efficiency, etc. Then you see them as clients. That's an institution building when you want to see society as a client. And when you see them as partners, you have negotiated agreements. You don't say, this is the law, but you say, how can we make an agreement, a gentleman's agreement, in order to get things going, in order for you to be doing the things we all want to do. And that's different. Self-regulation instead of laws. And in information measures, you see the same. Regarding target groups, you have registration, sociographic and demographic research, information as a means of governmental control. That's indicative for a society in which the government sees that society as a target group. But in a society in which societal groups are seen as interest groups, you have freedom of information and you try to ensure that. You have hearings before you make a policy. You have public meetings, community outreach, committees, forums, referenda, and then information is a right for societal groups. Information exchange is a right for societal groups. And when you see societal groups as clients, you just have polls, you know. How satisfied are you with the service delivery? Advertising, brochures, guides, public relations advice, surveys, information as a communication service. And when you see societal groups as partners, you have deliberation. You're going to sit around the table and you're going to deliberate what is going to be done. Joint project teams, lobbying, negotiation, information as a means for mutual understanding. And when you see at the institutional measures, you see national statistical and planning agencies when you see society as a target group, because you want to know about society for your control. But if you see society as a number of interest groups, you work councils, appeal courts, tribunals. And if you see society as a client, you build an ombudsman in order to give society a means to complain about the service delivery. Or you have special committees. And in societal groups as partners, you have consultative bodies, national boards, in which everybody is involved. And you see that in public-private partnerships, for instance. Okay, and as clients, you see the emergence of one-shop systems. Okay. And then it's possible to give an explanation who is involved and why are they involved. Who is involved in policy making? Who is involved in policy implementation? And why are they involved? What are the assumptions? Are the societal groups seen as enemies of the state or as friends of the states? Do we see a hierarchy or do we see horizontal relations? And that then you can make a distinction, and then you can explain and you can do research. In what society is Taiwan? In what society is Holland? And you think maybe that Holland, the partnership model is now dominant. It's not. At present, in the Netherlands, the target group perspective is dominant. Because as other countries, we are really afraid of extremism, terrorism, etc. So we have a lot of controls, a lot of information gathered just to control those possibly potential extremist groups. That's the main thing nowadays in the Netherlands. But institutions vary, and if you want to involve society, you have to choose what kind of role do we want to give to society. That's one. And then you can ask questions, when do we involve civil society in that policy-making process? Early in the process, late in the process, during the whole process, what do we want? And what's effective, what's ineffective? What's efficient, what's inefficient? And how to involve stakeholders. Still one of the main questions, major questions, how to enable larger groups of societal actors to have their say. You know, you can sit around the table with 15 persons, but do they represent society? Do they represent the whole community? That's the question. If you want to involve the whole community, how to do that? That's a real problem. And we have, of course, the ICT nowadays. We can use ICT, information and communication technology, but is that the way it should be done? That's the question. And there is no single way to involve all the actors. So my first reflection, needed is theory-driven, systematic, empirical research. I'm talking to scholars, I heard, into the explanation of the variance of public sector reforms and how it includes the society, into the actual occurrence of expected impacts of including civil society in policy process. What does it mean for a policy that you have included society? Is it just one step, as one alderman in Holland said to me, I involve societal groups very early in the process. Then it's done with and I can go my way. You know, that's one way to do it, but it's not a good way to do it. Then you don't take society very seriously. Second thing, we have seen many public administration reforms the last decades. Many. I think in Taiwan also. I don't know for sure. Who says there have not been any reforms in administrative reforms in Taiwan? There have been, eh? Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, because otherwise my point fails. And especially the new public management reforms. Have they been here in Taiwan also? The new public management reforms? Yes? Okay. Okay. Then I can make my point. There are two variants of new public management, American and European. And I don't know which one was dominant in Taiwan, but the American one is by Osborne and Gabler. Government under NPM should follow those 10 rules you all know. You know, you have all heard about. Enterprising, anticipatory, and it says, indeed, government itself is the problem. Leave as much as possible to the free market and see civil society as a customer, as a client. That's the main point I got from that new public management in the American version. And the European version, Christopher Hood is dominant, and he says government should pursue all kinds of things in order to improve itself internally, with an emphasis on output and efficiency. It's not that government is the problem, but it's the way that government does it that is a problem, and we should improve the internal workings of government. While the American version is much more, we should discard of government, we should leave everything to the free market, as a basic principle. So the American version of new public management, less government, more market. The European version of NPM, more efficient, output-oriented government. And there's nothing wrong with that. I like efficiency, I like output, but not only that, you know. Because if you see the different things that government has to do, it has to be efficient, it has to have a decent process, a due process, it has to achieve its goals, but it also has to arrive at outcomes. And you can have a dominant government a dominant market, or you can have a mixed dominance. And what you see in NPM is that it all goes this way. Market dominance with an emphasis on efficiency and output. That's the NPM way.